Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and this is the season finale of Evolve. We've gone this whole entire year on this wild ride, and so we're gonna talk the last episode. I also thought, depending on how you guys think, and if we get like some comments or some likes, we could also possibly do like the biggest moments in Evolve. I was gonna do like a tier list on that. Possibly also if we wanted to do another roster look at where we look at everybody on the roster that's currently on it now that people have left and rate them, and maybe even like some potential of like who's our next stars, because a lot of people leave after this episode and we finally, I think, catch up with some of the titles and stuff. I think some of the titles will move and stuff will be all in there in succession next week. So I think it's a whole new Evolve after next week. So we might as well get a little bit of a refresher. But that's if you guys are enjoying it. Not all on this episode altogether. There was a couple of like little backstage promos and stuff like that, but I figured I'd cover most of them because they were tied to a match or they really weren't anything too crazy. But I really did want to talk about the matches and everything. As a season finale, it was definitely surprising that they got three matches on here, which makes more sense when we talk about it. But they had the 10-man tag last time and only had that match on there. So squeezing one in there definitely felt like they did that. They was struggling to do it. So we'll start off with Xena Sterling versus Tyra May Steele. This match was a little bit long. I always am big on why do we have a squash match on Evolve, especially with Xena Sterling, because she had a decent showing in her LFG run, and I know Tyra May still won it, but this is basically demotion for her, and if she's not being pushed to be like the next person, then this just kind of felt crazy because she's not a heel. I feel like squash matches for heels are kind of imperative, but they try to make her heel. They kind of do all this, but she just smiles too much, and she just really doesn't have that heel mentality that I think they want to use her as a baby face. But then you got matches like this where it's just why they have the squash match. Like it really doesn't have anything to give either person because Xena Sterling looks terrible in it because it's only a minute she gets like no offense. Tyra still seems awful because she really didn't have anything to show, and the finishing move was a suplex. Like what? Like what are we doing? Like that is nothing to show like that she's strong and all that. She did a normal suplex, like not even like a fancy like two punches and a suplex type thing. It was just suplex and that's it. She's done. Like that made nobody look good on this. I think that if I really think about it, and you have to go from like Evolve, like maybe episode 3 or 4, there was that couple matches there with Hayes Jamison, especially with having some of her squash matches, with only matches that I could say maybe are in this realm of bad. But this might be, at least in the last like 10 to 15 episodes, the worst match that I've ever seen on Evolve, and just in general, because the thing that they tried to save it with was cutting a promo that lasted longer than the match, and Taylor still was basically gassed. She was gassed from her entrance to that match, so she was gassed on the promo. She really didn't connect with anybody. The fans weren't really into her. Like, it just kind of felt like they're like, oh, cool, like, I guess that was a match. And it just felt like, what is all of this about? Like, Tyler still has the strength, has that type of stuff, and like, if they're not gonna make her like a super baby face where she's facing other heels or like that type of thing, then she's not gonna be ever booked. Like, she should be booked against Callie Armstrong. She should have had this match against Callie like at some point and had Callie either beat her or go over on Callie. That would have been the better call here. This just did nothing for anybody, and I think they completely just killed Xena Sterling. I mean, I think she's going to probably be reinserted into the LFG program, maybe, but if not, and she's going to be on Evolve, what is the point? Because the last showing wasn't good either, and that was just kind of a poor match, poor, combination. But this one completely buried her. Like, this is completely the end of Xena Sterling. Yeah, I don't even know how you fix this after that. And Taylor still, like I said, took all that momentum, took all that stuff just to put a subpar minute match, and she seemed gassed. And like I said, the interview was awful. Every part about it, like even Drew Martinez, who struggles sometimes with the interview, struggle. That's probably his worst interview. Everything about this segment should have been cut. We could have had a normal ad break, and it would have been better than this. So, this by far the worst match that I think I've seen it evolve in a long time. I've had to watch the other ones, but I think this might be one of the worst things. Then we have Kevin Armstrong against Wendy Chu. So match quality gets way better. Obviously, these both are the top two women in the division, other than Kendall Gray. I kind of feel that she's in NXT now. I think that's the harsh reality that's going to happen after Succession is that she's definitely leaving. If not, she might play a little bit double sided for a little bit, but I really don't think so. I don't think she should lose to PJ Vasa because she's definitely not the right person. It should have been these two women, and there should have been a number one contenders match either way, but none of that was the case. So I'm kind of scratching my head on what they're going to do next year because I really felt like this should have been just a number one contenders match, and it would have made a lot more sense. It would have heightened everything up, and we could have still got whatever. But like they know if PJ Vasa, who probably is going to win the title, can hold a candle to either one of these two, I think that's the issue. I think that's just kind of what they're kind of looking at. So I don't know. The interim, it'll be like an interim champion, but she shouldn't hold on to it for that long. But this match, going back to it, I thought was really good. I had kind of building on blocks of other times that they faced off against each other. When Michu looked really good out there, Callie Armstrong always looks good. I definitely give the advantage to Callie. She's not really the veteran in this too, but she's just way more polished. I think her moveset fits that way, and she just kind of has like a lot of strength and like mobility type movesets, and it just looks good out there. Like Callie is somebody like I think Kendall Gray. If somebody is like, hey, here's $1,000 to invest in somebody, like just like as like a wrestling stock type thing. This is what I'm putting the money behind. That's currently on the Evolve roster because I think her limit is much higher. Her ceiling is much higher than most of the women on this show, which the women's division is still pretty solid. I know if they lose Kendall Gray, it's going to be a huge thing, but the women's division has some solid wrestlers, but Callie Armstrong is by far the best, but Wendy Chu did have a good showing here. I think I put it in a solid B. Only thing I would wish is that you would have given that minute from that first match to them, because I think that extra minute could have definitely knocked this into an A-tier match, but that's whatever. Then we get to the 10-man tag match. The special guest referee was Tate Wilder. It was PC versus ID. I like the storyline that they're going. I really do believe that they need to include the women in this. I think it would be much better and long-term storytelling that they can do, but I think this might be the end of it because most of Team ID is on their way out of the door. So Sean Legacy, Mike Cunningham, Aaron Work, and then Vanity Project. Vanity Project, congratulations, won the tag team titles on NXT because of the way of everything working. That they have the belts there, so that was kind of a weird thing. They should have just been like, yeah, we're not going to get injured ourselves and leave, because at the end of the match, it would have been better if they had the belts, but that thing probably wasn't in fruition yet, and it was something that they did last minute. Sean Legacy has already gone to NXT, and so the other two, Aaron Rourke and Mike Cunningham, is there. Aaron Rourke, I think, is probably one of the better guys out of this whole entire group to kind of lead forward. I think he'll have a lot more opportunities now that a lot of these guys are going for babyface stuff. Mike Cunningham is playing a heel gimmick on a babyface feeling, and it is awful. I like I said, I don't like the cowboy gimmicks like they had before, but I much prefer heel than this because I don't know, like, this doesn't work for a babyface gimmick. If it was a heel, like it's kind of just a frat boy type thing, that would have worked perfectly to even team him up with Iskall as like a frat boy and musclehead. That would have worked great, but whatever they're doing here is just not really working with that. So that's kind of trash. On the PC side of things, they have the big premium athletes. We obviously had two mystery ones. We had Cypress come in, first time him on Evolve. He had something behind him. I actually didn't look him up. I need to probably look into him a little bit more. And then obviously they tried to get Drake Monroe, but that didn't work. And I don't remember who we filled up the last spot with. That's how. Oh, Kiana Carver coming back down because they just didn't have the people and the bodies to do this match. I think an 8-man would have worked better and keep Sean Legacy and Kiana Carver at the back, but they obviously wanted to do a few things with Sean Legacy. I guess they ended out. This match I thought was pretty decent. They had some pretty good spots in it, a lot of good chain wrestling. Taylor Wilder's ref really worked out because it helped the bumps, and I think he did pretty solid. I'm starting to warm up with him a little bit better. We'll see who he is after all of this. I think he could potentially be in a good spot. So I'll put this in B. Also, things of note, we have Brooks Jensen versus Harlem Heat in the succession matches. I don't know how Brooks Jensen gets all of these opportunities, but I guess I'm going to have that. That is the least likely match that I'm going to care about next week, or least likely effused about. I think at least the other two matches will be great, but that match, take it or leave it, shouldn't be on the card. I would have went with something different, like a number one contenders match or some type of gauntlet, something kind of more fun, eliminator tag match. Any of that type of stuff would have been great. Then we finish off the show with Cappuccino Jones. He had came down after Vanity Project left. Don't know if they just didn't insert him in the match. It kind of could have worked out. We have a guest referee. I don't think that would have been completely out of the blue to do something like that, but whatever, we got involved in a little bit, and then he kind of had a passing the torch moment from Sean Legacy with Sean. He, congratulated Sean getting all these opportunities. Sean Legacy made the speech, but he's, basically telling that they're in good hands. Kind of felt bad because it kind of felt like he didn't say much about Mike Cunningham. He asked about Aaron Rourke and Cappuccino Jones, but Cappuccino Jones 100% needs to win that title next week. I think that would be kind of dumb not to do it. Plus, he is the ID champion. I think having a double champion, let him win the ID belt when he has the double champion. I don't do it here because then they can have him kind of lose, but I think this is a cool moment. So I'll put it up and see. Shoot was pretty good. I'd put it in a B. I really think that left a bad taste in my mouth with that first match. If that match didn't exist, I think that I would put this in an A, even though the matches were a little bit lower because it was the season finale and it had a bigger hype around it. It just, the match quality wasn't there for me. But if you guys enjoy this, like I said, leave a comment, like all that. I get a couple people liking and all that type of stuff. And we'll do the tier list for the whole season type of fan of all the big moments. And if you have any big moments that you liked, put those in the comments below too, because then I can review them. But until next time, this has been Japan. Bye, guys.